The group No Labels is increasingly grabbing headlines as it says it wants to provide an alternative to a Biden-Trump rematch and that it's preparing a possible unity ticket. But many Democrats worry the group is just going to play the spoiler, paving the way for a Trump return to the White House. Joining me now, former Connecticut Senator Joe Lieberman, who is founding chair of No Labels. Senator is a Democrat turned independent and, a reminder, was the Democratic vice presidential nominee in 2000. Senator, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thanks, Shannon. Good morning to you. Good to be with you.
All right, let's start here. Data for Progress is a group that's not a fan, it appears, of this idea. They've crunched a lot of data, numbers, talked with potential voters. They say this: with no feasible path to victory, such a campaign would only serve to split independent voters, undermine Biden's reelection campaign, and likely spoil the election in favor of Trump. So, what criteria do you use to assess whether you think this is going to benefit one side or the other? And would you bow out if you think this No Labels party run would actually benefit President Trump?
Okay, good and fair questions. Incidentally, groups like that have been attacking this No Labels exploration of a possible third choice for the American people next year are not a surprise, because No Labels is challenging the political status quo and in a way the control that the two parties have over our political system. But the American people keep saying, one, that they're worried about their own future and the future of their country, our country, and two, that the two major parties spend more time fighting each other than trying to respond to the things that the people are worried about, like the economy and crime and cultural changes in our role in the world. So we think there's a real opportunity for a third choice, and that the American people are telling us on polling we're doing and discussions we're having that they've lost confidence in the two major parties, and by large numbers, they don't want to have to choose again between President Trump and President Biden.
Senator,
why? Because
let me just ask you, though, if that polling showed you that you guys were going to tip in one way or the other, and especially for President Trump, would you bow out and let the two parties go head-to-head?
Well, here's what we've said about that. We're only going to run, basically, is to say, to offer our ballot line, a third line on the 50 American states, to a bipartisan unity ticket if we think it has a realistic chance to win. And we're not going to be a spoiler. By my definition, I think most people would say a spoiler ticket would be a ticket that has no chance to win and would take votes disproportionately from one of the major party candidates. Our plan is to only run if we think we have a chance to win, realistically. And look, we just finished a poll of 10,000 voters in the 8 battleground states. And we give them a choice of Trump, Biden, and a moderate independent third choice. And 63% say that they're open to a moderate independent third choice. Now, I understand that's not a ticket, but it shows how much the American people don't want to just have to vote for Trump and Biden. And incidentally, if we run, it's going to be a bipartisan ticket. So not only will we have concluded that it really can win, but because it's bipartisan, we're confident it's going to take equally from both parties. So the idea that we're going to spoil it and reelect President Trump is just not realistic.
Okay, so let's talk about how you would choose the individuals who would end up on the ticket. A lot of attention given to an event you all had earlier this year with Senator Joe Manchin, former governor, former ambassador John Huntsman. Will you have a convention? How will people have a voice? How will you select who ends up on the ticket?
Right. I mean, we're breaking new ground here. You know, there hasn't been a really strong or winning third-party ticket since Abraham Lincoln in 1860. But the last really successful but not winning third-party candidate was Ross Perot in 1992. So here's what we're planning. right now we're focused first on what's most important, on getting on the ballot with a third line in all 50 states that we will then offer and give to a bipartisan unity ticket. This fall, we're going to bring together a process that will be open, where we'll begin to consider what that ticket might be, who might be on the ticket. And we will offer this line if we think next year, as the race clarifies, and really if it is Trump and Biden, whether we want to go forward and run according to the standards that I mentioned just a few moments ago. And we already have scheduled a bipartisan convention. Think about it. We haven't seen that ever in recent history. A bipartisan nominating convention for Dallas, Texas in April of next year.
Okay. All right. As we look ahead to that, there are 3 leaders of Democrat groups who are worried about this. They penned an opinion piece at the Washington Post. They say this is dangerous, and they said no labels has yet to say what makes Biden a, quote, unacceptable candidate. Bill Press, writing over at The Hill, an opinion piece there, says there's no need to search for a centrist candidate who's willing to work with members of the opposition to get stuff done. We already have one. He's sitting in the Oval Office. So what is your argument against President Biden being a reasonable option?
Well, you know, I know Joe Biden forever. I served with him, excuse me, for 24 years in the U.S. Senate. I like him. I admire him. But the reality is that it's not what I like. The American people want a third choice. And they want a third choice because the two parties and these two candidates are not giving them hope that the U.S. government will really do something about all the things they worry about: crime, the economy, what we're going to do in Ukraine and the rest of the world with China, for instance. And therefore, I think we've got an and here's the other thing. I think people are convinced, and I worry about this too, that if it's Trump and Biden and one of them gets elected, in the end, we're still going to have partisan gridlock and division. And what we want to do is offer an alternative, which is a bipartisan unity ticket. Think about it, a fresh start with some capable people who are not going to be accountable to the party and feel an obligation to slash the other party, but will really try to get something done together for our country.
Well, Senator, we know this group has been in the works for a long time, and you have good goals. So we will see how this actually plays out with a name, and if it ends up on those state ballots, that convention in April next year. Senator, thank you.
Thanks, Shannon. We'll see you there. It's going to be a great year ahead.
Okay.